Excellency, Mr. Nikol Pashinyan, Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia, Excellency, Mr. Ararat Mirzoyan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Armenia, Excellency Ambassador Federico Villegas, President of the Human Rights Council, and representative of Argentina to the UN in Geneva, distinguished colleagues, I would like to begin by acknowledging how many of us are here from the field of the prevention of genocide, and know that obviously then with all these people here, all this convergence of thought here, that we'll definitely get somewhere in this very challenging field of the prevention of genocide. And so I would also like to recognize Silvia Fernandez de Gourmedi, the chair of the Global Action Against Mass Atrocity Crimes, GAMAC. And Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the 4th Global Forum Against the Crime of Genocide, which was created in observance of the International Day of the Victims of the Crime. And we appreciate today the government of Armenia for the role that the government keeps playing in ensuring that this day remains, the day of December 9th remains so important. 2 days ago, on December 9th, 2022, we commemorated the 74th anniversary of the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, an International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the prevention of this crime. December 9th also marks the day in 1948 when the UN General Assembly adopted the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. This convention became the first ever human rights treaty of the United Nations. In the year 2015, Armenia led the global effort to designate December 9th as the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the prevention of this crime. Armenia has been a very strong supporter of the Office of the Special Advisor on the Prevention of Genocide, and my predecessor was here in 2018 for another forum. And I would like to sincerely appreciate the permanent representative, Ambassador Muher Margarian, who is always a reliable partner and supporter of our office. My office also remains grateful to the Human Rights Council represented today by the President, who is here, for its consistency in support of the office, as most recently evidenced by the resolution that was adopted by the Human Rights Council on 31st March 2022, titled Prevention of Genocide. And once again, the government of Armenia was behind this. So the theme of the forum this year on genocide prevention, new threats and opportunities, focusing on the positive and negative impacts on new technologies on genocide prevention, is very timely. My mandate is to monitor and raise alarm to the United States. I keep saying United States, sorry, because we just had a very big event in the United States. It's still in my mind, December 9th. So my mandate is to monitor and raise alarm to the United Nations Secretary General, to the Security Council, to member states, and to other relevant actors on the risk factors of genocide and related atrocity crimes. I also raise awareness on the causes and dynamics of atrocity crimes and support member states and other relevant actors, including in capacity building, to promote prevention of these crimes. As the United Nations focal point on hate speech, my office also coordinates the implementation of the UN strategy and plan of action on hate speech, which was launched by the Secretary General in 2019. So many people in this room are aware that my office has set out the most common risk factors and their indicators in a framework of analysis, which we use as a basis for our monitoring work. And such risk factors include, amongst others, the presence of an armed conflict or other forms of tension and crisis, widespread human rights violations against groups based on identity, discrimination, dehumanization, hate speech, impunity, and states that have institutions that are not adequately prepared to respond to such trends. So when we speak about December 9th, which just happened 2 days ago, we are asked to remember what happened in the past, but also to think of what has happened after it came into force that could have been prevented. We do know that processes leading up to the commission of atrocity crimes feature many of these risk factors that I just mentioned. So we know that when we speak about the Holocaust, we speak about the 1994 genocides against the Tutsi in Rwanda, the 1995 genocide in Srebrenica, and also more recent situations where gross human rights violations that may constitute atrocity crimes have been committed in places such as Myanmar, Central African Republic, and Iraq, and others. And the failure to respond to these factors allows these crimes to still occur at the expense of its victims. So my office highlights these issues often. Often we put out press statements to highlight the risk factors that we see. And we do know that technology plays an important role in enhancing social engagement and connecting people worldwide. At the same time, it is easier to accelerate atrocity prevention and amplify impact. Technology has introduced benefits such as life-saving devices and made information more easily accessible to all of us. The UN Strategy and Plan of Action on Hate Speech seeks to enhance UN efforts to address the root causes and drivers of hate speech, as well as its impact on victims and societies. So one of the commitments of the strategy is to use new technologies and engage with social media to address online hate speech. In this regard, my office engages with social media platforms to promote policies and practices on addressing online hate speech in line with the UN strategy. So my office, as the UN focal point, coordinates system-wide efforts to counter and address hate speech, including by supporting UN field presences, member states, and civil society to develop context-specific and national action plans on countering hate speech. We do know that we do not have a universal definition of what hate speech is or constitutes of, but we have a definition of hate speech in the UN strategy that reads that hate speech is any kind of communication in speech, writing, or behavior that attacks or uses pejorative or discriminatory language with reference to a person or a group on the basis of who they are, based on their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other forms of identity. This is often rooted in and generates intolerance and hatred, and in certain contexts can be demeaning and divisive. So now going back to the United States, 2 days ago in New York, on December 9th, Michelle Rosendahl told us of her experience when on October 27th in 2018, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, witnessed the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in United States history at the Tree of Life Synagogue. And she told us about how her brother Cecil and David Rosendahl were killed. We looked at the profile of the person who killed the people at the Tree of Life Synagogue, and the person who shot them had posted anti-immigrant and anti-Semitic messages on social media. We had two from Raymond Whitfield from Buffalo in the US, where a gunman, again motivated by hate, killed 10 people and wounded 3 in a racist attack at a grocery store in a predominantly black neighborhood. This gunman, again, had also posted online quite a number of anti-hate, of anti-black sentiments. So since 2020, my office organizes Chatham House Rules roundtables with the leadership of tech and social media companies, where we raise challenges and good practices, where we agree on areas of cooperation and recommendations for action. So all of us are now communicating on tech and social media platforms, which really points to the need that I pointed out earlier for connection. However, global trends of hate speech and incitement fueling discrimination much of it amplified on social media, violence and conflict as well. In the most serious cases, atrocity crimes continue to rise. So the response on who to moderate and why and how is with the tech and social media companies. This conversation on technology is essential to the mandate of prevention of genocide. Based on the understanding that as regards dynamics that preceded the actual commission of genocide, hate speech was unquestionably a common denominator, and as I've pointed out in the two examples, that people continue to post on social media the kind of things that they are going to do, and then they do them anyway. We do know that this didn't just begin. Propaganda and disinformation were present in the Holocaust and preceding all genocides. People who fueled offline hate speech then were held accountable. Today, digital technology and social media is fueling hate speech everywhere. Hate speech offline is directly linked to hate speech online and to a global increase in violence towards all the issues we and other UN colleagues are dealing with on a daily basis. For example, hate speech against immigrants and hate speech against minorities at risk. So we do need policies to curb hate speech, yet we know that these policies sometimes risk limiting free speech, and where they exist, they've been inconsistently enforced. There are different approaches. Some countries grant social media companies broad powers in managing their content and enforcing hate speech rules. Others can force companies to remove posts within certain time periods, like Germany, for example. So tech and social media companies are constrained by domestic laws. In liberal democracies, these laws can serve to diffuse discrimination and head off violence against minorities at risk, but such laws can also be used to suppress minorities. So technology has facilitated the targeting of vulnerable populations and human rights defenders. We see this in the extended use of online surveillance, as well as harassment and threats that many human rights activists and individuals belonging to minorities at risk face online. So the rapid expansion of social media platforms across the world without the corresponding content, moderation, resources, and capacities has resulted in the spread of online hate speech and incitement to discrimination, hostility, and violence at a rate never seen before, contributing to division, violence, and again, atrocity crimes. So we've seen social media used to disseminate hateful narratives against ethnic and religious minorities, refugees, women, and others. Often, such narratives are instrumentalized for political gain, making those targeted even more vulnerable. So in countries where there is conflict, as we've just heard, hate speech is often used to incite communities against each other and to exploit and address grievances, resulting in cycles of reprisals and revenge killings. And so for these reasons, action to combat hate speech needs to be integral to our effort to engage new technologies. And by addressing this divisive and harmful language online, targeting populations based on identity, we can avoid escalation of tensions that could spill over into violence. So ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, how can we best utilize technology in preventing atrocity crimes of genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity? We must address the negative consequences of new technologies and social media while utilizing the benefit of these tools. Access to information has allowed communities to mobilize and take action to prevent escalation of tension, as well as to raise alarm when risk factors of atrocity crimes are present, and we have many examples. New technologies have also been crucial in the documentation of atrocity crimes, from individuals using their mobile phones to satellite imagery. And this can contribute to holding perpetrators accountable and in mobilizing action to prevent atrocity crimes. We have vast amounts of gross human rights violations and abuses that have been perpetrated in conflicts through individuals that have reached the world through individuals documenting such violations that might otherwise be hidden or denied by the perpetrators at great risk to themselves. We must support them. In addition, new technologies, including artificial intelligence and virtual reality, are excellent tools for memorialization and education about past atrocities, as well as to promote prevention. We support and amplify the voices of victims. We promote human rights, in particular, non-discrimination, advancing digital literacy skills. So to conclude, I would like to reiterate that if not properly addressed, online hatred and hateful rhetoric will keep putting people's lives at risk and keep posing this significant threat to international peace and security. We must continue and intensify our efforts to challenge hate wherever it may occur and keep working with states to continue finding innovative ways to promote positive and alternative messages and policies and laws, including by giving a stronger voice and engaging with those most marginalized and affected by hate speech in society. I look forward to the discussion today and tomorrow on how we can use technologies to advance genocide prevention and uphold human dignity globally. As I thank you, I would like once again to appreciate the government of Armenia for the support, consistent support over the years to the Office of the Special Advisor for the Prevention of Genocide. Thank you.